The Intempo skyscraper in Spain has 47 floors but no elevators. The largest detonated bomb in the world was the Tsar Bomba on October 30th in 1961 by the Soviet Union. The blast was 3,000 times stronger than the bomb used on Hiroshima. The impact was enough to break windows 560 miles 900 km away. The oldest recorded tree in the world is reported to be 9,550 years old, located in Dalarna, Sweden. The shortest presidency in the history of the world was by President Pedro Paredes of Mexico, who ruled for less than 1 hour on February 19, 1913. Jackie Chan's mother was a drug smuggler while his father was a spy. This is in fact how they met, when his father arrested his mother for smuggling opium. The Filipino flag is flown with its red stripe up in times of war and blue side up in times of peace. Humans can only live without oxygen for 3 minutes, water for 3 days, and food for 3 weeks. Sterling silver is not completely made out of silver. A little copper is added, as pure silver is too soft and would bend otherwise. Hudson Bar in Canada has less gravity than the rest of the Earth. It's unsure exactly why, but scientists hypothesize that it has something to do with the convection occurring in the Earth's mantle. Pluto is smaller than Russia. There is an insect called the assassin bug which wears its victim's corpse as armor. The original script of Lord of the Rings was one long saga, but was split into 3 books for the publishers to make more money. In Churchill, Manitoba, Canada, it's illegal to lock your car in case someone needs to hide from one of the 900 polar bears in the area. At the end of the 1990s, BMW actually had to recall their GPS systems because male German drivers didn't want to take directions from a female driver. We miss 10% of everything we see due to blinking. The country with the most millionaires is the US. The country with the most billionaires is China. Written language was invented by the Mayans, Egyptians, Chinese, and Sumerians independently. Potatoes have more chromosomes than a human. The China National Highway 110 traffic jam was considered the longest traffic jam in history. It was 100 kilometers long and lasted 11 days. Adult cats don't have enough lactase enzyme to digest the lactose from milk, making them lactose intolerant. The words Tokyo, Beijing, and Seoul all translate to capital in English. Fleas can jump over 80 times their own height. Poveglia Island in Italy is considered one of the most haunted places in the world, as it was the site of wars, a dumping ground for plague victims, and an insane asylum. In fact, it's so haunted that the Italian government has forbidden public access to it. Self-made millionaire Harris Rosen adopted a Florida neighborhood called Tangelo Park. He cut the crime rate in half, increased high school graduation rates from 25 to 100% by giving everyone free daycare and all high school graduates scholarships. The majority of lipsticks contain fish scales. There was a third Apple founder named Ronald Wayne who once owned 10% of the whole company. He decided to sell that 10% stake for $800 in 1976. During job interviews, Google doesn't ask for GPA or test scores from their candidates, because they don't correlate at all with success at the company. Australia literally lost a Prime Minister, Harold Holt, on December 17 of 1967, who went for a swim and just never came back. The role of Captain Jack Sparrow was originally offered to Jim Carrey, but he turned it down for the role of Bruce Almighty. Famed writer H.G. Wells' last words on his deathbed in 1946 were, "Go away, I'm all right." The Earth experiences 50,000 earthquakes per year and is hit by lightning 100 times a second. In 1888, Alfred Nobel's brother died, but a newspaper published his obituary instead. It condemned him for inventing dynamite and stated, "The merchant of death is dead." Alfred was so disappointed with what he read that he used his wealth to celebrate humanity and created the Nobel Prize. Graffiti from the walls of the ancient city of Pompeii have been unearthed and translated, showing that human behavior has remained unchanged in the past 2,000 or so years. Once the queen bee is deemed to be unfit to serve due to old age or disease, worker bees cluster tightly around her body until she dies from overheating. This process is known as cuddle death. In the Middle Ages, rhyming nicknames were becoming common, and that is the reason why Bill is short for William Will, and Dick is short for Richard Rick. Scientists didn't know how strong the blast of the first prototype of the atomic bomb would have been before detonating it in the New Mexico desert. They even had prepared press releases for any kind of event, from loud noise to among the dead were. Mark Wahlberg had committed 20-25 offenses by the age of 21. These included throwing rocks at a bus full of black school children and knocking a Vietnamese man unconscious and blinding another. He was also addicted to cocaine by age 13. Jams are made from fruit, while jellies are made from juice. Preserves have chunks of fruit, conserves have dried fruit or nuts, and marmalades have peel and pulp. Fruit. Butter is slowly cooked to a smooth consistency. The asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs was powerful enough to send Earth rocks to Mars and even Europa. As a result, if we ever find life on those worlds, there may be a small chance that they would have originated on our own planet. On April Fool's Day, 1976, the BBC convinced many listeners that a special alignment of the planets would temporarily decrease gravity on Earth. Phone lines were flooded with callers who claimed they felt the effects. After betraying their mission and informing the FBI about Nazi agents on U.S. soil, the two men who saved America from Nazi infiltration were greeted with life imprisonment, the threat of execution, and deportation. Leonardo da Vinci may have written backward, not for secrecy, but because he was left-handed and it was easier for him to do so. Harare, Zimbabwe is one of the most expensive cities due to its citizens switching to US dollars as currency. They are so used to Zimbabwe money with very high values that being charged $20 for a haircut seems a good deal, as people do not have an outsider concept of the real value of the dollar. In the 80s, a full decade before the W started to come on its own, 25 million people in France went online to the bank, check the weather, chat, make reservations, socialize, check stock prices, and even had porn. There were no computers though. They just used a free Minitel terminal. Hitler's plan for Moscow was to kill all residents and replace it with a lake. A butterfly can taste with its feet. An average yawn lasts about 6 seconds. The term dendrite was introduced by C. Golgi in about 1870. The giant squid has the largest eyeball of any living animal. The diameter of the giant squid's eyeball is 25 centimeters. The diameter of a human's eye is 2.4 centimeters, and that of the blue whale is 15 centimeters. Rabies comes from the Latin word rabere, meaning to rave, as well as a Sanskrit word for doing violence. Atropine, a drug that blocks receptors for the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, is made from the poisonous Atropa belladonna plant. Louis Braille invented the system of reading by touch, the Braille system, when he was only 15 years old. Drunken behavior and violent crimes involving adolescent drinking cost the U.S. $53 billion per year, including $19 million from traffic accidents. Cerebral oxygen consumption is 3.5 mol 1 OG of brain or minute, or 49 mol or minute for a whole brain. The energy consumption of the brain is equal to that of a 20 W light bulb. The venom of some scorpions affects a victim's nervous system. In 2002, scorpions stung 15,687 people in the USA and 2 people died.